Welcome to the Career Change Diaries podcast with me, Alice Stapleton. And today I'm really pleased to be speaking to Ryan McGuigan. Hi, Ryan. How are you?
Hi, Alice. I'm really good. Thank you.
Good. Thank you so much for coming on to this. I'm really keen to hear your story. So previously, Ryan spent 15 years running his own deep tissue massage therapy practice in Belfast before training in guided immersive meditation, which is not something I'd actually heard of before. So it'd be interesting to hear more about that. And going on to work as a tour guide for the inside, helping others access the same internal shift that changed the direction of his own life. So, where to begin? I suppose tell us a little bit about what you were doing with your massage therapy in Belfast and how you even got into that to start with.
Yeah, well, I qualified way back, seems like a lifetime ago, in June 2010. So my original qualifications were in Swedish massage, advanced body massage, and Indian head massage. I had actually previously intended to do sports therapy, but didn't get in because I didn't have a sort of a foundation level of massage. But when I started to do the Swedish body massage and the advanced body massage, which was like Eastern based, I just had a love for all things holistic at that stage, and I decided not even to bother doing the sports massage afterwards. So I got my qualifications and went straight into the big bad world of self-employment.
I didn't. So you went whole hog into self-employment straight away.
Yeah. Most people probably would have got a job and got some experience and stuff first, but I wasn't really ever one for being told what to do. So I went straight into self-employment and just basically started to work from home. Took everything out of the spare bedroom in the apartment and put my table in there with whatever else that I needed, and just started to post ads online on Gumtree and Viva Street to begin with. I don't even know if they exist anymore, but they were free. They were free at the time, so I just made the most of it. So I did that, and just bit by bit, clients started to trickle in, and over the course of about 18 months, I felt like I had enough to take the leap and move into a city centre office in Belfast.
Right.
So up until then, I was just trying to keep my overheads as low as possible and all that. So yeah, that was a big moment. It was a turning point, actually. Being in the city centre, BT1 postcode, right in the middle of my so-called target market of stressed city centre workers and sitting at a desk all day with their sore backs and necks and what have you.
Yeah. And was that always the plan? Like when you knew that you wanted to do this, is that what you envisioned, you having that practice in the city centre?
I suppose one day I was planning to do that, but just for that first 18 months, I couldn't, I suppose I had scared myself as well. I was just thinking that it's going to be extortionate prices. And that's just what was in my mind without having done any research or anything about it. And I suppose for the most part, that was true. But the office that I found was actually ridiculously affordable. And
right.
In that first week, I was able to cover all my expenses for the following month. And I never looked back after that, really. Right. So my friend helped me design the website. So it was SEO, search engine optimization. And we had it sort of designed around the search term massage Belfast. And I think just because I was bang in the centre, I was just most convenient for most people. I think that's how it started. But I dedicated myself to doing a good job, and over a period of time built up a good reputation. And that little Google business page amassed it was about 225 five-star reviews by the end.
Okay.
So that was fun watching those coming in bit by bit, and just word of mouth and everything. And just things started to go from strength to strength, which was superb.
Yeah. So how long did you have that practice for in the city centre?
It was split between two offices, I suppose, but the business was 15 years old.
Okay.
By the time I retired.
Okay, so it was 15 years in that office. Yeah.
It was 6 years in one office and 8 years in another office, but pretty much, yeah.
So can you remember how that felt when you were doing that day in, day out? And
yeah, in the early days it felt amazing because I was watching it grow in real time. I was getting all the feedback from the clients, and I was doing my best to do a good job. I was doing my best to learn every day. I had left Belfast Met with 3 or 4 qualifications in massage, but my learning really only started when I got my hands on real clients, real people who were paying me real money, as opposed to, my fellow students who I was practicing on, who probably didn't even have a problem. And I was never really given a full massage at any one time. You might have done one leg one day and one arm the next day or something. But watching it grow and getting people's positive feedback, and as those reviews amassed and all of that, and then as I suppose started to earn more money as well, and I was able to give myself those little life upgrades along the way. That life couldn't have been better at that stage. I really felt like I had meaning and purpose and was making a contribution to the world.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like it really grew into something successful.
It really did, yeah.
Yeah. And was that something you always wanted to do? Massage therapy?
Not in this regard, no. I had actually originally intended to be physiotherapist. And I went to Manchester and I studied that for a year, but one thing or another, it didn't really work out. And I came back to Belfast and applied to the sports massage at that stage. So, yeah, I had visions of being in the sports field. I had always done that at school, was always very active, all of that. When I did physio in Manchester, it seemed to be more hospital-based, and I didn't want that. I suppose I should have looked into it better, but the course was funded by the NHS, which meant I had no fees, which was unreal. But it then meant that I was going to have to work in a hospital. So we were studying things like stroke rehabilitation and cystic fibrosis sufferers and stuff like that. And I'm just a wee bit too sensitive for that. I couldn't go and
hardcore.
I would take all of that on, and it just wasn't going to be for me. So I decided to go down the sports route, didn't get in, and then ended up down the holistic route.
Okay. Yeah, but it sounds like it's, similar themes. You obviously wanted to help people in quite a kind of physical way. And I always wonder, like with massage, is it a bit strange to start with? Does it take some getting used to, kind of the touching strangers and that side of things?
I guess it did take a bit of getting used to. But, you get used to it.
Just get used to it, yeah.
Yeah, and most of the time, the client was more nervous than I was, so...
Yeah. No, it's interesting, because, I always think it's quite interesting, what's the feet one? Is that...
Reflexology.
Is that right? Well, yeah, I always think that's fascinating, but there's no way I could go near anyone else's feet.
I don't think I would like to work with feet. Only.
It is... Yeah, it's quite interesting though, how it's all connected. Okay, so talk me through. So you're doing that for 15 years. When do the niggles start to to creep in that maybe this wasn't what you wanted to do anymore?
The niggles are a very apt word, really, because, even though the business was my baby, it became a huge part of who I was. But 8 to 10 years in, probably, I actually became a victim of my own success. And those niggles presented themselves in my thumbs and my wrists, my elbows. So those started to get sore just from doing, just using and abusing. Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
I actually became known for deep tissue massage. That seemed to be what people needed. So this isn't, like a spa type treatment I'm talking about
it's
here.
Quite
this
hard,
is
right?
Yeah, it's quite hardcore. Yeah. So the thumbs and the wrists, a lot of grip strength, a lot of pressing in with the thumbs, and 8 to 10 years of that started to accumulate, as it would. So sore thumbs, sore wrists, and this was going on. In the beginning, I could manage it. It was fine. Maybe it was only short-lived, but the aches and pains become more and more sort of ingrained, if you like. It got to the stage where they weren't going away with a good night's sleep. They were still there in the morning. And just over the years, when I was 35 compared to 25, it just that the recovery was taking longer. A good night's sleep wasn't quite getting there. When I went home in the evenings, I was fit for absolutely nothing.
Right.
So I would say I was about 10 years in when I properly had to admit to myself that I wasn't going to be able to do this indefinitely. And, I was in my late 30s. If I was lucky, I would get to retire in 30 years. And that was just absolutely out of the question.
Your thumbs didn't have another 30 years in them.
No.
So what did you start thinking then?
Well, I suppose at that stage I didn't take it as seriously as I should have. I chose to try to manage it for a period to begin with. So I used to offer a 90-minute treatment, and I cut that down to 75 minutes maximum. Then I cut down to doing a maximum of 2 75-minute treatments a day, whereas before I might have had up to 4. So I had five treatments a day, and I was limiting myself then to 2 75 minutes and 3 45 minutes. So let's say you would do a full body treatment in 75 minutes and a targeted back, neck and shoulder massage in 45 minutes. Then I went a step further and I cut down from 4 working days a week to 3. And all of it was just sort of kicking the can down the road. It was never going to resolve the problem. It was just going to sort of allow me to keep going for a while. So I didn't take it seriously enough because I didn't feel that there was absolute urgency. There was no emergency. It was just like little aches and pains, and some days, some weeks were better than others. At times I was telling myself, it's not so bad, or, you can manage it if you reduce the pressure a bit or whatever. But I guess underneath it all was an underlying fear of starting something again from scratch, particularly because everything else was so good. I felt like I had purpose and meaning. A lot of my clients
worked so hard to build it up, and
worked so hard to build it up. But my clients, a lot of them even felt like friends. By the end, we would take proper interest in each other's lives. I would have a 2-hour slot for a massage, and if the massage was only taking 45 minutes and say 15 minutes to get changed and whatever, we might have spent half an hour, 45 minutes just gabbling away, catching up. And so there was a lot of good relationships built up over the years that I just wasn't quite ready to walk away from, I suppose. And then, the fear of the uncertainty of building something else from scratch, and the questions of, could I do this again? because, it was really built from scratch. And there was that 18-month period where you weren't able to pay yourself properly. So, it took that amount of time. And I guess it was the fear that might happen again.
Right. So at what point did it when did it get to the point where you thought, okay, I've really got to just face this now?
Yeah. Well, I guess sort of softly, I was keeping an eye out for something. When I tell the story, my research started quite early, but I just wasn't really doing it consistently enough or looking hard enough. But I was looking into things and ruling things out. I had a few criteria that I was keeping in mind. So I wanted to stay in the kind of health or wellness field. The work had to be sustainable for me, so it couldn't have any sort of physical toll. And I also wanted it to be location independent, because I had already for years wanted to move away from the grey and the wet weather of Belfast. I think, I don't know if you've been to Belfast, but there's about 2 weeks of summer, and then there's about 10 months of winter and 1.5 months of autumn.
It kind of takes its toll after a while.
Absolutely. So that was kind of running in the background as the criteria. I had looked into lighter modalities of massage, but while sustainable for me, and still in the health sphere, it wasn't location independent. I didn't want to have to start a business here in Belfast and then move abroad somewhere and start building a bricks and mortar business again. And then maybe move on somewhere else 3, 4, 5 years after that. So it really had to be online so that I could go anywhere, be anywhere, and continue to do it.
And how did that sit with you? Because I suppose having had quite it's almost quite an intimate practice, as you say, you've got those relationships, you've got, I suppose, the structure and the routine of going to an actual office. How did that sit with you, the idea of being online and location independent?
My main motivator really was to get out of this weather. Right. I thought, that was really the main thing. And I thought I could, still have the relationships and everything with people. Obviously, it wasn't going to be as intimate as, physical touch and being in the same room to speak to someone over like a Zoom call or a chat like this. But it was a worthwhile trade-off for me, really.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah, it sounds like you were pretty clear what the main priority was then. So you started off with a criteria, and then you started to do a bit of research into what some of the options might be. Then what?
Well, I was just researching and ruling out. I qualified in a few things even. My research took me deeper and deeper, and a few things looked really promising, but then sort of at the last hurdle fell flat in its face.
Say a bit more about that.
Well, I qualified in level 1 and level 2 of Reiki, energy healing.
Yeah.
And as I looked into that, distance Reiki is a thing. So you can actually do Reiki online and project energy wherever you want. So I looked into that, and while it ticked everything in the boxes, technically speaking, I just really couldn't get behind the idea of building a sustainable practice from it, because it seemed to be a lot of intention, and the results were subtle in a way that they weren't with a good massage. You know, my people knew that they were going out. Half of them thought they were beat to death, but you know, the Reiki was subtle in a way that I just couldn't really get behind. I sort of had this idea that I was on a hidden camera show and they were sort of taking the piss out of these people. Where do you see what we can get these people to believe what they can do with their mind and all this? So I was just like, no, that's not something I can get behind, and no harm to Reiki people, you know.
Yeah. Well, and how did that feel, having done a couple of courses and then coming to that conclusion? Because I know I certainly have clients where, well, you tell me, how did that feel?
It was frustrating on one hand that I was, you know, landing back to square one a number of times for sure. But also I felt like I was learning along the way, that I was ruling things out, and I had a better idea of what I was looking for after each failed attempt, if you like. And it was actually the Reiki then that led me to the notion of researching meditation, because I came across a YouTube channel that said about the benefits of Reiki actually coming from the empty mind of the practitioner, and the empty mind of the practitioner was creating conditions for healing in the client. This is for Reiki now. So apparently this has basis in quantum physics.
Right.
So it led me down that path. So I have no regrets really about the journey and how I got there. I
think that's really important to acknowledge, because sometimes people almost get scared doing a course because they're concerned that it may then not lead anywhere.
Yeah.
But I think what you're saying there is so important to pull out, that it's almost the learning and acknowledging that even if it's not that thing, it may lead you to the next thing, which you wouldn't have gotten to if you hadn't done that first step. So it's all sort of part of the same journey almost.
Absolutely. And I'm really happy with where I've ended up. So, you know, I don't even have any regrets that I didn't take the research as seriously in the beginning as I should have. You know, in theory, if I had have found what I did find back then, I would be further on in this business now. But if I'd have researched it more deeply and harder in the beginning, I might have ended up in something else, which I wouldn't have found as rewarding.
You just never know, do you?
No.
Never know these things.
So I'm not going to torture myself about it.
Yeah, exactly. What's the point? It's been and gone. So you come across guided. Well, was it just the idea of meditation at that point that you came across, or?
The Reiki sort of journey led me into meditation in general. Right. And in my research of meditation in general, I came across an article which had sort of mapped out, I'm sure you know yourself, there's like millions of different types of meditation for for sleep or relaxation or transcendence or whatever. So this one sort of stuck out to me as different because my own experiences of meditation were lackluster, to say the least, shall we say. It was usually just a relaxation thing or a guided sort of sleep meditation, which were pleasant enough, but sort of lacking substance as far as I was concerned.
So it wasn't like a big part of your life already?
Just on and off as an amateur, as a beginner. I did all the usual things that everyone does at some stage, you know, the apps and the YouTube videos and whatnot. I tried to quiet my mind for 10 minutes a few times, which was futile to say the least. Just couldn't quiet my mind. And that's what everyone says to me. Even if I talk to them about meditation now, they have trouble quieting their mind. So what I read about this particular meditation then was that it was to do with self-discovery and self-sourcing the solutions to your own challenges from within.
Mm-hmm.
So that was an idea that I hadn't heard associated with meditation before, and that really resonated with me.
So the clarity that can come from meditating, sort of self-clarity.
Yes. I had read a lot of different things about what meditation was capable of and what it wasn't. Manifesting the life of your dreams and stuff like this from a 15-minute meditation is probably a wee bit far-fetched. But this sort of hit a sweet spot between being genuinely useful and also what it could be genuinely capable of. Does that make sense?
Mm. So are you doing this research whilst you're still seeing massage clients?
Yes, this is all going on in the background sort of thing as well. So also an important part of the story while the research for the new career was going on, my relationship actually ended. The normal ups and downs turned out to be something a wee bit more fundamental. So we decided to go our separate ways, cancelled wedding, moved out, all that fun stuff. So I moved out. We lived like 40 miles from Belfast. So I was doing an hour's commute each way for like about 7 years.
Oh, wow. Gosh, that's a long day.
So I went back to Belfast to cut out the commute and the expense of the commute as well, time and money of the commute. And I ended up going into a shared house because, well, anyone who's done a breakup or considering a breakup, when two people are contributing to the household, it's manageable. But when that changes, the financial situation becomes a wee bit more strained, or a big bit more strained. So I decided to go into a shared house just to be able to stabilize myself, get a sort of a foundation anyway, where I could at least know where I stood financially, and then I would reassess it in a year's time. That was the plan. So I got in there and had this unexpected wave of shame and embarrassment of being in my late 30s and my life not looking the way that I thought it would and maybe thought it should by conventional markers. So yeah, at that time and through this period of the research, my head was all over the shop, basically dealing with this shame and embarrassment and the fear and anxiety and catastrophizing of, number one, how it looked to everyone. I had, in the previous months and the previous 7, 8, 9 years, I had this relationship, and that turned into an engagement to be married. We had talked about the weather here and moving to somewhere else at some stage down the line. And while I knew the relationship had run its course and it ended up just not being right for either of us, the shame and the effects of that shattered self-image just really overwhelmed me, to be honest.
It's a lot, yeah.
So, yeah, here I was in this shared house then with a reduced income because I had cut my days from 4 down to 3, and just really wondering how the flip I was going to ever get out of it again, because to get out of it and to pay a proper rent in Belfast. I was going to have to earn more money. To earn more money, I was going to have to spend more time at the massage table. And while my hands weren't doing particularly well, that didn't really seem like a feasible option at that stage. So my head was all over the shop, running all these scenarios of doom and gloom, basically.
Yeah, I can imagine. Very tough situation to be in.
Yeah.
So what, how long did you feel like that?
This was ongoing over a period of months. I suppose some days and weeks it was louder than others. I didn't really tell anyone, I didn't tell anyone outside my nearest and dearest. I certainly wasn't going to bring it into work. I was still turning up to my massage clients, my usual happy, enthusiastic, positive self, which in ways actually made it harder and made it worse. I sort of isolated myself in it. But I suppose I did what anyone else would do, and that was try to fix it. So I had already been journaling for years. I leant into the journaling. I read everything that I could read about stopping anxiety or becoming more confident or different psychology topics and what. I found all of that interesting and helpful to a point. I saw a counsellor then as well, and he was able to give me some language around it and sort of diagnosed, if that's the right word, that the main issue was like a loss of identity. So that I had been building my self-worth on the image of this relationship, marriage, happy household, thriving business, and plans to move to the sun someday. So when that all came out from under me, I just wasn't expecting to collapse with it. So the understanding of that helped a lot. But it didn't really shift my lived experience of the thing. I understood why it happened, what was happening. I understood all of that, but it didn't take away the shame. It didn't take away.
Make it any easier, does it?
No, my circumstances were the same, and I still couldn't see how I was going to change these circumstances. So the fear and anxiety and catastrophizing and all of that was still there. So this was the backdrop really for this continued research. And when I found the meditation, as I said, the self-discovery and all of that sounded fantastic. It ticked all the other boxes for location independence, still in the health sort of realm, and was going to be completely sustainable for me. At the end of the day, it was just like this for talking. No deep tissue massage. So the last thing really then was that the practice needed to prove itself. If I could validate this as a worthwhile practice, that people would find valuable and desirable and want to ultimately buy, then that would be all the boxes ticked and I would have the new career direction. But what I wasn't really articulating to myself at that time was that I wasn't thinking about this meditation service for me. So I was testing it for other people. I hadn't
thought about using it for yourself?
Well, I wasn't having that conversation in my head at all because I didn't think I had a lot to discover about myself. I had been doing all this journaling for years. I had been doing all the reading. I had been to the counselling. I had, got the diagnosis, if you like. I don't even know if that is the right word, but he had told me about the loss of identity. I understood all of that. I could paint a perfect picture of this whole scenario. So I didn't think I had a lot to discover about myself. So I was going to prove it for other people, and then we'll go from there. So in the early stages of the course then, we were receiving the meditations, we were receiving the practice, which would later be what we would deliver to our clients. So we were sort of being on the receiving end of it to see how it feels to go through it and experience that. And I just remember in one of those early sessions, this flick of the switch kind of scenario. So I didn't know it at the time, but I had been judging myself harshly against these so-called external markers of a man kicking the ass of 40, where he should be in life, what his life should look like, who else should be in his life, what he should have achieved or amassed by this stage. And here I was in a shared house and blah, blah, blah. So I had been judging myself on these markers for months. This is maybe 6 months, I want to say, post-breakup. This is about 6 months later, so I'm still quite in the thick of it. So during one of these practices, then I was able to quiet all that noise right down. So I was able to get underneath the analytical mind, the part of my mind that was, with all the lived experience, all the conditioning, all the expectations, all the judgments, opinions, perceptions, all of that. I was able to get right underneath it, right underneath everything that I had journaled, everything that I had read about, everything that the counsellor said. I was able to get underneath all of that to what I would describe as a deeper part of me. So this deeper part of me then had a different take on the whole thing. And I got to hear from the part of Ryan that that was just me. That was just a human being. And
away from all that noise. So noisy.
Away from all the noise, away from all the opinions and perceptions. And I got to access what was true for me, which was unfiltered by all of that. We'll call that nonsense. It's probably not the word I would usually use, but we'll call it nonsense. So yeah, I got a vision of myself as just a decent human being with genuinely people's best interests at heart. My own heart was in the right place. And that, I could look in the mirror and look myself in the eye and be proud of the person that I was. And in that moment, I just knew that was the most important thing, that living in a shared house, that having a business that was taking too much out of me at this stage, and all the other stuff and all the other stories that I had been telling myself, and all the anxiety about the future and all of this jazz just became completely irrelevant. So my own self-worth, my own self-esteem, my own self-acceptance all came back. And with that then my self-belief and my self-confidence that I could navigate this and that I could start again, build whatever I needed to build to get myself out of this absolute shit show. Couldn't help myself.
Well, as you say, it was only a shit show because of all of those stories.
Absolutely.
It's funny how we just get ourselves all tangled up in these social constructs of, as you say, where we should be and what we ought to be doing, and it's all just made up.
Absolutely.
To be honest, there's no race. What are we comparing ourselves to? I mean, we all end up in the same place eventually. It is fascinating how we just get so stuck in all of that nonsense, as you say. So it sounds like the meditation just helped you cut through all of that and just touch base with that side of you that knows, actually, it's okay.
Yeah.
You're okay.
Just getting access to the truth, which was unfiltered by all the conditioning, all the comparison, all the all the expectations that you absorb from your no age, basically from childhood through school, through everything, all the roles that you have, whether they be employment roles, your job or your business or your spouse or you're a parent or a homeowner, whatever it happens to be, they all add expectations and their own demands and responsibilities and all of that. And they really all get added on top of the human. I call it the big self. I've come to learn that we are two layers of us, really, the big self and the little self. So the little self is all the conditioning and the expectations and all of that. But I accessed my big self, which is underneath all of that, the more permanent state of being.
Yeah. It reminds me of, there's an exercise I do in my career change program, which is called Your Powerful Self, which I think I've mentioned in other episodes, but it's a very similar approach. It's a guided visualization. It has a feel of meditation to it, and you meet your powerful self, which is, the version that you're sort of talking about, really, who knows that things are possible, that you're okay, that you have strengths and you have qualities that mean that you can do whatever it is that you're wanting to do. But we sort of lose sight of that version of ourselves so easily. And that practice, is it, how do they go about bringing you into that state? Is it like a mantra, a visualization, or how do they get you into that state?
It's a guided meditation. So the best way I can describe it really is that every word and every sentence has a job to do. And then the cadence of it has to be pretty perfect as well. Can't be too fast, can't be too slow. The thing I would have struggled with meditations would have been left with too much silence, because my mind would just be gone somewhere. So this is really well designed in that the cadence of it gives the person's mind something to focus on. So it might be their breath for sometimes, it might be some of their body for sometimes. Then you might be asked a question, you might be asked to go somewhere in your mind's eye. But the whole time you're not being left to your own devices. Your monkey mind isn't allowed to go swinging through the jungle. So there's usually maybe about 10 minutes at the beginning, which is just to get you into a nice rhythm and into a deeper state of relaxation. And then the proper meditation will start, and that can be based on whatever. Might be something like you've just described there with your powerful self. But by the time you get in there, your analytical mind and all of that is almost asleep, if not completely asleep. And the part that you access underneath all of that then seems to be more creative, more imaginative, certainly much more positive outlook than the other lunatic.
Yeah. Well, do you know the neuroscience behind it? Because it's ringing so many bells. With I'm reading a load of stuff at the moment about what's that book? The Body Keeps the Score.
Oh yes.
And what happens in the brain with trauma and the different parts of it, and what runs what, and so it's ringing loads of bells. But do you know the neuroscience behind those two selves?
I do. So the small self, what we're talking about now, or the state that we're in now, will be like a beta state, a beta brainwave state. And then that goes from beta to alpha, which is like a lower state. And then sort of the border between alpha state and theta state is the border between the conscious and subconscious mind. So the theta brainwave state is the state that we use, and that's just the sweet spot before you go to sleep. So we're all in that state naturally, first thing in the morning when we're waking up, and last thing at night when we're going to sleep. So that's why everyone has their good ideas at that time. So yes, we just keep them in that delta state then, which is a lower frequency than the other ones. A high beta state would be like your anxious state.
Yeah.
There is a form of beta that would be good for focus and all of that. And then your delta is out cold, sleeping.
Yeah, because sometimes when I meditate, I fall asleep because I obviously get into that state and then I'm gone.
Yeah.
Okay, so just to backtrack a little bit, so you're doing this on your course. You have this, I don't know what you'd call it.
Epiphany,
epiphany. Yeah. So then what is that when you think, right, this is what I want to do now?
Well, after I had that first experience and just my whole self-esteem and self-belief came back, I was literally crying my eyes out. The relief of it was just palpable. And I just thought to myself, this has proven itself 100 times over. Everyone needs to experience this, because I know, I listened to enough of it on a massage, from people on the massage table, of stuff that they were going through and stressful situations and all the rest of it. And I just thought to myself, everyone needs to experience this. They need to see the difference between hearing from the small self and hearing from the big self. Didn't articulate it at the time, but so all the technical boxes, practical boxes were ticked, and now that the practice had proven itself. So I continued, I went on, got qualified in the guided meditation framework.
How long did that take?
It was self-paced, so I guess altogether it probably took me 6 months.
Okay. Yeah.
So that was 6 months of dedication. I can tell you, I was like getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning to go through the course videos and all of that. And then there was weekly live calls to receive the practices, like I've just said. So this was an intense period for me to be working full time and to be learning and consuming all this course content at the same time. But I had a fire lit under me at that stage. Everything just felt right. Plus the fact that I actually had soon after that initial practice, there was another one about, it was about envisaging what you wanted to do or what would open up for you after you qualified. So the idea behind it, I know my analytical mind goes over these things and my analytical mind tries to work all this out. But the idea of it was to motivate us and keep us, on the course, because course completion rates are just terrible at the best of times. So this was to give us like a North Star to work towards. Your why, if you like, if you're doing anything, you think about why you're doing it. But anyway, I could see myself then with this brand new business, helping people with overcoming the small self and accessing the big self to overcome their problems and give them all the self-worth and self-belief that they needed to go and actually live the life of their dreams, not just, going through the motions or wishing their life away the way I was when my hands were killing me. And I was like, this is not the way to be living life. So then with this big, beautiful business, as I call it, and it being location independent, I had the ability to do what I had wanted to do for the last probably 20 years, and that was leave Ireland and go to the sun. So I had full-scale goosebumps, hair standing on end, full body tingles, the whole shebang. So just everything was pointing me towards this is the route to go. So I qualified, got my certificate and whatever, and then I went into practicing on family and friends, just the logistics of actually delivering a program, working out the Zoom settings and getting my camera and my microphone and all of that, and just actually going through the process of delivering a program.
Yeah. And have you still got your massage practice at this point as well?
Yes, everything's going on at the same time here. Like I say, a super, super intense period of busyness. But I was motivated, and I, at that stage, felt like I could do it. At that stage, I felt like I could do anything, which was certainly a change from the previous months. So after practicing on family and friends, then I moved on to marketing within my existing massage clients for the new service. So that was different. You know, my friends and family, God love them, they were instrumental in helping me get started, but I don't think they were going to tell me, Ryan, that was terrible. You're crap. This is a terrible idea. So they were all very helpful, but I knew to take the feedback like with a pinch of salt, if you like. So when I moved on to paying clients and people were putting their money where their mouth is, I knew that the feedback that they were giving me was reliable. But plus, the results were just ridiculous. They surpassed anything that I could have expected. Life-changing for some of them. So I got to validate my idea with paid clients.
And how did you feel asking those people, telling those people that this is what you now offer?
What I did actually was I made myself a little VSL, video sales letter. So following my own experience, I was more than happy to shout that from the rooftops. You know, any sort of self-consciousness or anything that I probably would have had in another life was completely gone, because this had such a shift for me that for me not to share it was going to be doing people a misservice or a disservice.
So you kind of had a higher purpose that
absolutely
just overruled any sort of self-consciousness.
No, there was no nervousness or anything like that. So I made this 7 or 8 minute video, which was actually pretty well done in the end. And it just sort of mapped out, here's what happened for me, here's what I'm going to be doing next. If you want to have a discovery call, then get in touch. So it was just a message like that with the link to the video to all of my clients, and anyone who was interested got back to me with questions or whatever. And we just went from there. So I ended up doing sort of 10 programs with my massage clients over the course of the next year or so. So that was multifaceted. That allowed me to grow in confidence in the delivery itself. It allowed me to grow in confidence because I was getting other results other than my own experience. So it was validated outside of my own experience. And those 10 courses then also let me build up a financial runway so that in the end I could retire. So I went through
that was quite pivotal in the financial side of it.
Oh, absolutely. Because I was still only doing 3 days a week in the massage. So this allowed me to make some extra income, keep that aside. And at this stage, you know, I just really wanted to retire from massage, take the physical toll off my hands and move to the sun.
Well, yeah, I'd be running towards that vision, that's for sure. Yeah, well, how did that feel then? Kind of closing it all down, telling your clients?
Yeah, it was much harder than I thought, actually. You know, having the conversations with people over the last couple of months, it was really weird showing the last person out, because I told everyone that I would try to get them someone that I could refer them onto for massage. So I was trying a few people out in Belfast myself, and sort of my last conversations with everyone was, oh, I'll try this out and I'll get back to you in the next couple of weeks with a recommendation. So the goodbye didn't feel like goodbye. So when I showed that last person out and I had to walk back up the stairs with no more appointments booked, that was weird. That was super weird. And then, even saying cheerio to the centre managers and the staff at the office where I worked out of. It was just super, super weird. But
I imagine it helped. Well, yeah. Well, and I imagine it helped having such a clear vision of why you were doing it and what you were moving towards. Makes it a bit easier, I imagine. For sure. I knew I couldn't keep doing what I want or what I was doing anyway, even if I wanted to. It just wasn't going to be physically possible. Well, that's the thing when you're changing career. There is a sense of loss and a bit of grief almost. Even if it's something you don't want to do anymore or can't do anymore. You're only human. You're going to still have those feelings, especially going back to what you were saying about identity. I know you were referring to more your relationship, but there's so much identity within somebody's job as well. So to kind of close a door on that and not be sort of fully in the room of the next thing, can be a strange feeling.
I guess I was just glad that I could stay in the sort of health and wellness field, and it wasn't that big of a shift in identity from that point of view. I don't think it was important to me that I was actually doing massage specifically. That wasn't the point. The point was more that people were getting genuine value from my service. So I think that was more the identity part of that.
So you closed the door. Goodbye.
Yep.
How long before you moved to Portugal?
I retired at the end of August and I moved to Portugal at the end of October.
Okay.
So
soon.
Tied up.
And did you know people there?
Nope. I just researched online. All I knew is that I wanted hot summers and mild winters. And that meant just going as far south as possible, particularly for that time of year, just coming up to Halloween. So I was looking in the Faro area of Portugal and found a little apartment that I could go to for the first 5 weeks. And then it was very much a case of just winging it.
Good for you. It takes a lot of courage to do that.
It did, to be honest. With the shift through the practice and all of that, that was absolutely instrumental to the whole thing. But it still would have been easier to stay than go, put it like that. With my family and friends and support network at home in Northern Ireland, and going to Portugal, not knowing the language or having friends or family or that social circle or any of that. It's really just going to the sun and hoping for the best. So I stayed in Quarteira for the first month and then found another little apartment in Portimao. And the idea was that I would just keep moving around, explore, see what's what. But I ended up staying in Portimao for the next 7 months because it was just gorgeous. The first day that I rocked up to the beach, it all just sort of unfolded itself as I looked over the cliff, and I was just in love straight away.
Oh, wow.
So
sorry, I was just going to ask, did you start to sort of make yourself at home there, kind of meeting people, or?
Yes, I joined a couple of groups. There was a little spiritual group that I joined, and they met for breakfast once a month, and that was good to have some human to human contact, because everyone else I was just speaking to through a screen like this.
Yeah.
then through that group, I joined another group called Portugal Digital Nomads. So that was really good because I got to meet more people from all over the place, working online and traveling, not from the local area. So people in the same situation or a similar situation to myself was really good. So yes, I'm sort of integrating myself bit by bit. Still haven't got the hang of the old Portuguese yet, though. It's a strange language.
So yeah. And what, building up clients at the same time?
Yes, just trying to get to grips with the whole marketing thing. I've got a fantastic service, but sometimes I feel like I'm posting on social media and I'm just whispering at the top of
oh my god, tell me about it. It's like 3 likes, woohoo!
Yeah.
Oh, it's so demoralizing. Yeah, it's tough.
And that's something that I never really had to deal with in the last business. 70 or 80% of my clients were repeat or regular customers, so I never had to worry about that. Everyone booked their next appointment before they left. So, I was always booked 3 or 4 weeks in advance. And that's probably been the hardest thing about this, is that getting that traction at the beginning, getting onto social media, which I've never really had to do before. What I do like, though, is that it's given me a chance to express myself. I like writing about this kind of thing. I like talking about it. And if you'd asked me if I would be on a podcast this time last year, I would have said absolutely not. I wouldn't put my head above the parapet like that. I wouldn't.
Oh, really?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, that's probably testament to all the meditation that you've done for yourself as well, right?
Absolutely.
Because the reason you wouldn't do that is because of the small self. So
absolutely.
If you're more in touch with
I'm completely underneath all the potential judgment or exposure or opinions. People can take it or leave it. Not everyone will agree with what I say, but it is my truth, and it is something that I'm willing to shout from the rooftops. So people can think what they want, and I'll just crack on.
Good for you. Well, I'm glad you have overcome that, because it's been fascinating talking to you about it all. And if people want to hear a bit more, where are they best to go?
Yes. If anyone sort of feels like they have their own burning questions, or they'd like some clarity on their career or their direction or their life in general, really, I've written a short little podcast series which goes a bit deeper into some of the themes and the stories that I've discussed today. So there's a free guided immersive meditation session in there as well, to give people, a direct experience of what I've been talking about rather than just an explanation. So that'll let people get beneath that analytical mind, get to the deeper part of themselves, and help them figure out what's actually true for them. So they can go there at ryanpaulmcguigan.com/listen. And there'll be details on there as well if anyone wants to reach out or ask me anything.
Okay, amazing. Well, yeah, I think it's great, as you say, just to be able to try it, because it sounds really interesting and very effective, but probably quite hard to explain and get that across. So if you can try it, then that's probably the best thing.
No description can probably do it justice. It needs to be experienced and felt.
Yeah, because with all the somatic coaching that I've started to do as well, if you're trying to explain like a body scan or a breathing exercise, or
exactly,
like a humming exercise, is quite hard to sort of talk about how that might feel. It's best to experience it.
Yeah.
So, and having talked through this whole transition, what do you yourself take away from it?
Really, I just want to live my life, not going through the motions, not wishing my days away. I want the freedom to make conscious choices about where I go, what I do, how I spend my time. And particularly with work, you'll know yourself that it takes up a huge portion of your time, a huge portion of your life. And it has to be something that brings you joy. You can't be just turning up for a salary or turning up for the title or the status or whatever that gives you. It has to give you, something deeper than that. And that's what I want to pursue, and that's what I want to help other people pursue.
Yeah, I definitely get the sense that you've got this sort of higher purpose that's just seeing you through what's required in order to get there. And as a result, the fears and the doubts just sort of, I'm sure they're there, but they just get overtaken by what you want.
They are there, but I think if everything's aligned, if your thoughts and feelings and your actions are aligned to something that's important to you, I don't think there's a lot that can stand in your way.
Yeah. And when you think about everything that you've read and come across, I mean, obviously the meditation's been transformative, but any other sort of books or resources that people could maybe tap into to get their heads and bodies in the right place?
I've read countless things. I've listened to millions of podcasts and YouTube videos over the past few years. And they all help with a certain amount of understanding. But I think for the deeper questions, like what do you really want? What's important to you? What's your next best move? Your best resource is yourself, or your big self, I should say.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, usually deep down people know. I keep seeing these sort of things on Instagram that deep down, you're just tussling with how uncomfortable it's going to make you feel making it happen. And probably avoiding those feelings. A lot of people know deep down what it is they need to do, but it's not an easy path.
It's not easy, but it's a lot easier if you can get into that state, cut out all the conditioning, all the expectations and demands and responsibilities, and just get to what's true for you. And then whatever that truth is, deal with it. But if that's filtered through what I call sometimes the shit-tinted glasses, then you're going to have a very hard time. My own program is called Be Your Own Effing Guru. I'm not sure if I want to go the whole title with that at this stage.
We'll have to put the explicit tag on the podcast.
Have to put the wee beeps on. Yeah. But yeah, be your own guru, basically. Don't outsource to someone else what you know deep down is what's true for you, and then just have the courage to go with that.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Any other bits of advice that you'd pass on, having been through quite a career shift yourself?
I don't think I have anything to add that I haven't said already. But yeah, just be honest with yourself and don't end up in a situation where you're wishing your life away, especially at a job.
Well, and one thing, actually, probably should have asked earlier, in terms of the money side, like how have you managed that? I mean, obviously, I suppose on your own, it makes things a little bit easier. But how have you managed the money side of it?
Well, as I say, I was able to build up that little bit of a financial runway before, and I have a small reserve that I can tap into. And then in Portimao, I just basically lived within my means. Mm-hmm. My rent was incredibly affordable. I'm not living in the lap of luxury. I'm not living in a huge house or a villa, but it is a studio apartment and it's a mile from the beach. So it suits me.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah. And if I could live like that until things start taking off properly, then I'll be very happy.
Yeah. Well, I wish you all the best. And yes, to everyone that's listening, do check it out. Sounds fascinating and super helpful. And if people want to get in touch, you're on Instagram, LinkedIn, all
I'm
the
on
usual places.
LinkedIn and Instagram, Ryan Paul McGuigan.
Okay, perfect. And do follow me as well, Alice_career coach on Instagram, and I'm on LinkedIn as well. My website's alicestapleton.com. Okay. Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate your time. And as I say, I just wish you all the best with building up this business. Sounds like it's super helpful in this day and age when everyone's just so stressed and burnt out and running around like headless chickens in the world at the moment. So yes, all the best with it. And thanks again.
Thank you very much, Alice. We'll be in touch.
Take care. Yes. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.